I don't know. Where is it? First time ever came out. Come. Yeah, I'm a human being. Let's go. You didn't like the first one? No, I work for Naftali Miller, so I came to hear him. Good. Did you? Yeah, yeah. Okay. J- Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Do the best we can to continue. Okay, moving right along. So we just had an incredible three panelists who spoke specifically about events, building events, stuff like that. Now we're having two panelists only. Third person couldn't make it from Olami. Naftali Miller, who both started an organization called Chazdei Lev. We'll talk about it. It's an incredible organization. They help Rabbeim, Shul, he'll tell you about it, and Jonathan Donath, Dr. Jonathan Donath, who started an organization called Daily Giving, an incredible organization where basically they fulfill the dream. You give a dollar to tzedakah and you help a lot of people. He'll talk about it. Since there's no third panelist, they asked me to try to participate as kind of the third panelist. I run an organization called Yad La'achim. We help rescue Jewish women and children trapped in our villages. I also had an organization called MDY, America's Daf Yomi. Rabbi Stefanski's Daf Yomi share. Anyone do daf here with their belly? Oh, wow. I'm sure some women do the daf also. We think we have like 300 women who do the daf, but we don't publicize it. Anyway, so tremendously schus to have these amazing people on stage. Let's give a huge round of applause as we welcome Naftali Miller and Dr. Jonathan Donut to the stage.
He told me I should sit in the middle.
Mike's work? Yeah, it's.
Hello.
All right. I'm so excited. Naftali, your workers said they're here, and I should give them a shout out. This is the shout out, even though I don't know who they are. Okay?
We're taking attendance.
Taking attendance. That's how you build an international organization. So the concept is really, how do you build an organization that has huge following around the world? You know, Chazdei Lev, let's call it an American organization for lack of a term, but it's very successful, it's very well known, and you also, a position like Agudas Yisrael of America, which is very well known, and Dr. Donath has an organization called Daily Giving. So I'm going to have to speak as if people just came in for the first time, even though I know there are people that were in the previous panel. So one of the things we try to do is get a little bit background story of who you are. Therefore, the people will resonate with what it is that you do and try to deal with the day-to-day life. One of the things we're going to talk about, I think, is the personal struggle that people have while working in an organization. It's not easy. We forget the personal aspect. The last panel I spoke specifically about events, but here there's a personal aspect you have in your life, and how do you balance that with building an organization? And it's part of building a huge organization. So, Rabbi Naftali, let's start with you. What's your background story? Where are you from? It seems to be very interesting. Let's hear.
So I'm going to tell everybody we have a little bit. We grew up in the same area in Kensington. It's a very, very special neighborhood.
Out of town. I explained it's in out of town. Okay.
We had the privilege of having a lot of the same rabbanim. The biggest thing that helped me motivate go into this world, when I was 8 years old, my mother wanted to pay for tuition. And money was very, very tight in the house. And one Sunday she says, Naftali, we're going on a trip. And we started going down McDonald's. At that time there was factories. We went to one factory and next, and we asked them for the samples. And my mother took all those samples, and we went to the flea market, and she sold it and then brought the check into the yeshiva to pay my tuition. And you saw the commitment, and you saw how passionate she was to make a difference to my yeshiva, to yeshivas, Rabbeim in general, to people. That gave me that drive to help others. And I always tell people, it has to come personal. People can't just raise money. You have to believe, you have to be actively involved and feel it. You can't sell something that you don't believe in.
So what's your background? How do you get to your position you are today? Let's hear your story. You're very passionate, but let's hear the story.
Hashkacha is how you get. Is how I got here. And
what's your career? What's your career trajectory to get to where you are?
So I started off first. I was learning in Derech Chaim, and there was a younger man that was in a massive car accident, and a few of the guys, we put together money to help him out. And the Rashiva the next day after I was successful, the reward for doing something good, you get the opportunity to do something else good, and that's really, it's char mitzvah mitzvah. The Rashiva called me in the next day and said, you should come and work for the yeshiva. I worked for Derech Chaim for about 18 years, and then I was approached for a short time. I went to Art Scroll, and then I came by Markowitz, who was involved in Keren Shvius and others. He brought me over to Agoda, and I'm here about 6.5 years in Agoda. We started, you mentioned Chaz Dilev. I started Chaz Dilev at that time in Derech Chaim when I was there. We started.
Explain what Chaz Dilev is.
Chaz Dilev is an organization to help Rabbeim to give kavod, to show appreciation to the Rabbeim and to their families. They dedicated their life to chinuch. We want Klal Yisrael to come out and show them their dedication is appreciated. We started a movement today, Baruch Hashem. There's 8,000 Rabbeim across the country. We're dealing with 477 yeshivas, over $20 million worth of purchasing.
I can explain the idea, people that don't know. What is that you give to them?
So every Rebbe gets an order sheet. It's $320, and that translates to almost $4,000 worth of value. There's multiple partners in it, vendors, yeshivas, buying groups, all the different partners that build up to give the value. Most of the work, the reason how we do it is volunteers. This year alone, we probably had somewhere about 3,500 to 4,000 volunteers that helped us for Pesach season across the country.
Wow, that's amazing. So just to put it out that people don't recognize, we're sitting here with greatness. You're talking about a Yid who runs Chaz Dilev, which is one of the most well-known organizations now. And Agudas Yisrael of America, you're in charge of, what's your position over there?
Chief Development Officer.
Chief Development Officer. That's a very beautiful name. Basically in charge of fundraising for Agudas Yisrael of America. So massive organization. So you definitely have a lot on your shoulders, and we're looking forward to hear what you have to say. Dr. Donath. So you started an organization that just blew my mind, because it's one of those things that when you hear it, you're like, wow, I should have thought of that. I wanted to do that. It's a great idea. So first, let's hear your career background. You're a doctor. I don't know what that means, right? What type of doctor? And also how you started the daily giving.
Sure. As you said, I'm a chiropractor, and I had my own practice for the last 19 years. And I always felt like I was like one of the rare people that, or maybe not so rare, but you hope not so rare, but that really understood that thank you, that I knew my tafkid. You know, that I go to work every day and I help people who are in a lot of pain. I get to make a Kiddush Hashem every day. Probably 90% of my patients are not Jewish.
Wow.
And so it was just great. I just love that aspect of my job. You know, even though I always want to make Aliyah, one of the things I was I didn't want to make Aliyah. I was like, if I make Aliyah, I don't get to have that Kiddush Hashem every day. And so that's really been a bracha. And about 6.5 years ago, I was listening to a shir. The shir was by a Rav named Rabbi Alon Anava. And Rabbi Anava describes himself, he says that I wasn't just a secular Jew, I would dafki cheeseburgers on Yom Kippur. And eventually he got into crime and was arrested, but he overdosed on drugs and he died. And this 2-hour video is this video of him explaining what, obviously he came back to life, what it was like on the other side. And I highly recommend the video. If anyone stopped me, it's worth watching this video. But in this video, one part of it, he explains that he was in like this black abyss of pain and suffering, what felt like 2 billion years. And the message he got is that you don't have one single mitzvah to elevate you to the next level. And I had just finished the shir, and I walked into my local Marv Minyan, and I put $1 in the stock box like we do thousands of times in our lives. And this epiphany hit me like a ton of bricks. Nothing had ever hit me since like this, ever before and ever since. And the epiphany was that no matter how much tzedakah I give, I still get a mitzvah for this $1. So I was like, what an amazing deal. How can I guarantee myself the mitzvah tzedakah every single day, no matter what, for $1? And I went home and I started Googling, is anyone automating daily tzedakah giving? And I couldn't really find it. And I called up my website guy. I said, Shaul, what do you think of this idea? He says, great idea. I said, could you build me a website? He said, absolutely. And then called my friends. We started meeting. And then my next idea was like, you know, if I can get Rabbi Pesach Krohn to speak about daily giving the way he speaks about Torah anytime,
Plug to Torah anytime, right?
we're gonna blow this thing up. So I called Rabbi Krohn. My heart was beating out of my chest. And the voice of Torah anytime picks up the phone. And I told him the idea. And he said, it's a good idea. He said, no one's doing this. I was like, Rabbi, no one's doing this. He says, okay, then let's get together like a rabbinical council so people know that the money's not going to your kids' college funds. And I said, that's a good idea. So that's what we did. And we had.
So explain the idea of daily. What is daily giving? Explain it.
So we automated a platform to try to get Jews all over the world to give $1 of tzedakah together every single day. And every single day, we give the entire amount of money to a different incredible Jewish nonprofit. We give to Chazdei Lev, we give to Yahalom, which is a good organization, we give to Torah Anytime, we give to Mesamchei Lev is here, we give to Mesilah, which is here.
You're making a lot of organizations very jealous right now.
Yeah, so I just happened to see some YU Connects is here. I saw some of our,
Next year he's going to give many more.
We give a lot of applications.
Yeah, we give to Chai Lifeline, Chesed 24/7, A-Time, Bonei Olam. So we give to, it's a diversified portfolio of over 75 different incredible Jewish nonprofits. And we now have over 21,000 Jews from 43 countries, all giving $1 of tzedakah together every day.
Wow. That's amazing, amazing.
And thank God we've given out over $23 million in the last six plus years, and we don't take a penny. 100 cents of your dollar goes to tzedakah. We fundraise all our budget separately, so that we can give the whole thing to tzedakah.
Right. So I want to touch about that because Jonathan brought something up that we were discussing. We had a meeting before, and it just blew my mind. So I want to explain what he said. So everyone here is involved in an organization. And when you have an organization, you try to do good stuff. But part of doing good stuff is you have overhead, you have an office, you have staff, you have marketing. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're spending money to make the money to help other people. What Dr. Donath was saying, and I told him that the next video, Rabbi Miller and I agreed, you have to explain this to the world. He basically gets around, what's the annual budget of daily giving?
Our overhead budget is about $1.2 million.
And you give out?
Almost $8 million a year.
Okay, so the $8 million that he gives out is basically people giving him the credit card, and he gives out to Moistus. It goes straight to the Moistus. It doesn't take a penny in between, which means his full budget to give daily giving, he doesn't touch it. He has a separate quote-unquote organization, so to speak, where he has to raise money for the overhead, which is his sole achrayas. This is all on him, which is crazy, right? So I want to start with that. Yeah? How do you manage this concept, and why do you do it, and how did you balance it, that you're able to focus specifically, because I think this is very important people recognize. One of the struggles people have, you built a massive organization, and you did something that's counterintuitive to every organization, and that is, I need money to make money. And yet, whatever you get from people, you give it straight to the people, and you raise it separately. How did you do that?
So first of all, I think I would probably say that what I know now is I would not necessarily recommend that to everyone. I feel like if I didn't have to raise $1.2 million, I'd be way more effective at my job of getting more daily givers because it takes up so much of my time to raise my overhead. So I will tell you that, when I go speak to different philanthropists to try it, and it's an incredible tzedakah ROI because when someone signs up for daily giving for $1 a day, we have like over 90% retention rate. People love being a part of this so much, they never want to stop, so they keep giving. So $1 could be thousands and thousands of $1,000 to tzedakah. In fact, more people go from giving $1 a day to sign up their whole families than go from $1 to like stop. So it's really an incredible tzedakah ROI. So if my customer acquisition cost is $100 to get a new daily giver, that's $100 to get another Jew to give thousands of dollars to tzedakah that they're not already giving, which I think is an incredible tzedakah ROI.
Wow.
So not every organization would have that as that. Also, we're a fund of funds, right? So we're giving money to other tzedakahs that have their own overhead. So that's what we felt, and we still feel very passionate about it. But I'm not going to lie to you; it's also very difficult. And I wish I didn't have to raise my budget, and I wish it was like part of, But now it's very difficult when you've been doing this for years, as it's part of your unique selling proposition that you don't take a penny. I feel very internally conflicted to change that.
I understand. Naftali, you said when you started Chazdei Lev, right? It's kind of a similar trajectory, right?
Right. I remember the point when we started, we had zero overhead. It was all done by volunteers answering the phone. And we saw at a certain point that only way we could scale it and bring it is to raise money to cover our overhead and hire people. We had guys that Ashkenazi knows that their wives were answering the phones, and all different types of people. And at a certain point, we needed to get an office, we had to get a warehouse, we had to get staff, and you have to make that decision. There's wonderful books out there about volunteer organizations going over and starting to hire people. It is important to have paid staff, and you look in this room. You see very competent people that are making a difference every day because this is their job, this is their mission, and really you have to do it. It was very, very hard for us to make that decision and move over, and I understand what the doctors are struggling with. But at a certain point, you have to make that decision to grow your organization.
Right. Like they always say, there's a famous thing, they say in nonprofits that the second generation already is in it for the money, right? Because people who start it are always in it because of the min l'shem shemayim, generally speaking. So again, it's very hard to encompass. I always say when you come to an event and you come to a panel, what I try to do is that people will walk away with some tangible advice. I always say one piece of advice that can change your life, that can change your business, or in this case, your nonprofit. That's what I want to focus on now. We're going to try to segue between large donors, small donors, annual budget, and then get a little personal. So Naftali, we'll start with you. You deal with Chazdei Lev, Good Israel of America, big organizations, big moises, and we hope big donors. So one of the big things in the discussions is how do you build a relationship with the big donor enough to solicit? You said a great story before. I would love for you to share it with the Olam again. I think it would be great for them to hear.
I think first, big donors, small donors, they're people. The boss of Adam, they wear the same pants as us, they eat the same steak, maybe a better steak. At the end of the day, they have the same desires, same families, same struggles, same challenges as me and you. They might be a little different, but at the end of the day, they're a person. And you have to realize people have bad days. People have challenges. You call somebody and you hear in their voice that they had a hard day, drop it. Call back a different day. Be compassionate and tune in to the person and be real with the person. Just, Moshe Simcha is here with me. We went yesterday to somebody which I mentioned to you. And we spoke to him before and he said, I'm not in the position to give you any money. We went to the meeting and we didn't ask him for any money. And the guy walked me out. He didn't know what to do with us. Like, why are you here? And I said, we made up. I'm coming to share with you what we're doing and give you an update. I'm not asking you for anything.
You got to share the story you said before, but the painting and stuff.
So when I was in Derech Chaim, I wanted to get to a world-class Gvir. If I share the name, everybody knows he's from
So share the name.
Steve Rosenberg from Greystone. He's from one of the biggest philanthropists today in giving tzedakah. And I had no connection to him. I sent him an email 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no connection. Finally, I started realizing who his rabbi is, who his connection is, and his rabbi passed away. And I made a big painting from the floor to ceiling in China. And those times it was just coming in that you could do paintings in China. It wasn't crazy expensive. Maybe it was $1,500, and I sent it to his office. And after that, I got a meeting. In between that, during Hanukkah, I sent donuts, but not like a box of donuts, like a sheet of donuts to his office to get his attention. One day I sent him an email. There was a crack in the Derech Haim, the candy machine, and nobody took a bag of potato chips out of it. I was walking up the steps and I said, "What am I going to send Steve an email today?" Like I knew today was my day. And as I was walking up the steps, I saw the crack in the machine. I said, "Steve, the difference between a yeshiva and a public school is nobody took a bag of potato chips. Let's meet one day." And he wrote back to me that day, beautiful email. And I was keep on building. So anyway, we set up a time to meet.
You got the appointment.
We got the appointment after the painting. We got the appointment, and he calls me up and he says, "Okay, March, whatever the date was, it was the summertime." And I'm all excited. I finally broke through and got this a meeting. And for the week beforehand, this was like huge for me. And the morning of the meeting, I think my appointment was like 1 o'clock, like 11 o'clock, he calls me up and he says, "Naftali, if you're coming for money, don't come." I said, "Steve, I'm not coming for money."
You lied straight up.
No, I'm not lying. I think the mistake, we don't come for money. We never come for money. We're here to build the relationship, and I think that's the point. Don't look at the person as a cash register.
Right, so we said it before, you mamish me l'shem shemayim. We're talking downstairs that we come to an event like this, and people do want to hear tangible advice and how to build the nonprofit, but if you don't really believe in what you're selling, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So you mamish believe in it. Keep on going.
I think also that's what is. Let's say you have to raise money for selling apples.
I want you to go back to the story. Finish the story.
So I come to the meeting. It's unbelievable. Anybody ever in his office, huge. It's the first top floor. They set me up in this conference room, and I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, I never saw something like this in my life. I'm coming from Kensington, and I was like, over Central Park. It was gorgeous. Comes in, we sit down, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, hour and a half. We're schmoozing about everything, connections. We're having a great conversation. He turns to me, he says, "Naftali, why are you here?" I said, $250.
$1,000.
Yes.
Okay, let's clarify. Yeah.
But by the way, you have to practice the number 250. You have to practice whatever number you want, and it has to come like, I think it was the first time I ever asked somebody for that number. And he said to me, "Naftali, not yet, but let's start off with a smaller amount." He gave 100. Subsequently, we got to $250,000. But he felt he didn't want to be used as a cash register. He didn't want to be used. He wanted a genuine relationship. It was a genuine relationship. All rules are out. I with him, we made a whole insurance group for the Rabbeim where he funded it and we self-insured. We did many creative things from that conversation. But if a person feels that you're real, then you could do many things.
The donor, let's hear about you. You obviously, there's two aspects of donors to your organization. We discussed this: people who give to give, and the people who give to you to help run it. So about the people who give to run it, how did you convince them? What do you feel is that's called the magic sauce, so to speak, to get big donors?
Two donors to the operation side?
Yeah.
First of all, I resonate 100% with what you said. It has to be in your core. Like you have to be authentic into your core. So it's what I give my own tzedakah money to. So if I'm telling them this is the greatest tzedakah ROI, like this is what I want, I mean it. I really genuinely feel it in my bones. It's a great tzedakah ROI. So I think that's really important for any type of fundraiser. I guess we're all involved in nonprofits. There's fundraising involved. You got to be, and I was talking to like a younger guy earlier today. He asked me my advice, and I was like, listen, if you're going to fundraise for an organization, just make sure that you are completely and utterly passionate about whatever organization you're working for, or don't do it, because what's the point?
And someone's told me that if your workers are not giving donations to your organization, think twice about them. Like if they don't believe, they give tzedakah. If they don't give to your own maisid, you have to worry about them.
Yeah. So, one piece of advice that Rabbi Krohn gives, and I just love it for anybody in nonprofit space, but really anyone in life, whether it's you teaching your children or when I go speak to younger crowds, is he has an equation. It's SW cubed over N. So SW 3 times over N, which means some will, some won't, so what? Next. And I think it's just so important because, Daily Giving, when we started, I thought I had $1 billion idea from the beginning. People were like, oh, wow, it's amazing what you built. I'm like, amazing, like we're doing terrible here. And I thought it was going to be just massive. And it was like a real shocker to me when we're like 2 weeks in and we have 90 people signed up. And I for 6 months, I was getting ready to get, and everyone's like, this is an amazing idea. I'm going to sign up. Everyone's telling me they're going to sign up. And then, we have 90 people. So it was really a hard pill to swallow. You realize that it's actually really hard to get people to take their credit cards out of their wallet, even for $1. And so some will, some won't. So what? Next. And I think that resilience that I had, that I was that this idea was so burned into my neshama that this was going to happen, that I just did not give up. And so in my head, I was like, okay, every single day, I'm going to call someone to get someone to sign up. If no one is signed up by 9 p.m., I'm just gonna call someone, and I would just get on the phone every single night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I call someone and I tell them it's a good idea. I'm like, but I need you to sign up now. Like now? I'm like, now. And I did that month after month, one by one by one, and then
I mean specifically to raise money for your own for the.
No. I'm talking about
the overhead. How do you do that? How do you deal with that?
The first few years, we just funded it. A couple of my friends and I, we just paid for ourselves.
But now, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with raising the money for the overhead? From an emotional standpoint.
How do we get in front of donors?
Yeah, how do you do it? What's your advice?
My advice is go to someone who's already passionate, assuming you have one person, 2 people that you already have are passionate, and ask them for advice. Ask them, will they make an introduction? I find that some philanthropists absolutely do not want to make an introduction to their friends because they're like, I may as well just give you the money, because if I give you their numbers and they give you $25,000, they're going to just hit me up for $25,000 the next day. So there's some that very much don't like it, but you're going to find there's some really, really special people out there. They're all special, but the ones that have an abundance mentality, right? There's so much scarcity mentality when it comes to money. Even the organizations that I deal with, right? I have Daily Giving has partners that the organizations are literally incredible partners. They're they would do anything for Daily Giving. They're like, okay, I'm doing this for me. Oh, maybe we could also do that for Daily Giving. And they're just, and they are, because they realize that when people give $32 a month to Daily Giving, they're not going to give any less to Mesila or to Masam Kalev or to YU Connects, right? They're just not. But there are lots of organizations that absolutely have a scarcity mentality. And I think that's really, and it's something, by the way, I'm guilty of it myself. I used to be a little bit more like that, where people wanted to introduce me to, can you introduce me to this donor, that donor, and there is a little bit of I don't know. At the end of the day, I find I'm working on myself in this respect, and I see it because I don't have it as much as others, and I see that having an abundance mentality is a really amazing thing. And at the end of the day, like we said, we are all doing this l'shem shemayim, and so if you're doing it l'shem shemayim, even there are copycats to Daily Giving. I don't know why I brought that up, but but people are like, oh, are you happy about that? Are you not happy about it? Look, I'll give the total honest answer. On the one hand, there's more tzedakah being given because there are other organizations copying what we have, and I'm happy about that. I genuinely am. At the same time, I'm not going to lie, it's also cannibalizing. My big thing is achdus, Daily Giving.
Everyone should go through Daily Giving.
Daily Giving right, means different people. Some people want to guarantee themselves the mitzvah tzedakah every day. Some people want to learn about new organizations. Some people feel like for the first time in their lives they can actually give real money because they're giving $21,000 a day.
Wow.
It means a lot of different things to different people. But to me, it's the unity. Right? To me, it's what more can Hashem want than all of his children every day giving to our brothers and sisters who are less fortunate.
Again, like you said, you don't take a penny. So you touched upon something that I think is something I didn't plan on discussing, but I'm going to segue to you. You say, doesn't matter next. You're basically talking about the concept of co-reluctance or dealing with rejection, right? It sounds easy to say, okay, look, it doesn't, next, yeah? people here are very passionate about their organization. They care about it, and they take it very personal. And one of the hardest things to do is to reach out to a donor and he tells you no, or he doesn't answer the phone. And it's the most classic advice and difficulty. So Naftali, as someone who was for Aguda, Chazal and worked so long for so many years, how do you deal with the rejection? How do you deal with that?
So it's interesting, as Jonathan was talking, when we first started Chazal, I remember this meeting like yesterday. It was the first year, it was a snowy night. We sat in a Gavir's house for 4 hours, and he told me every single reason why Chazal would not work. Every single reason. Today, he considers himself one of the closer donors, and he helps. But I walked out of the meeting, and I said, we're doing this anyway. And I think that you can't get dejected. And just last night, someone called me up and he asked me, should he call this person and ask them for a donation? And my answer to him was, it's a great idea. He's a great person and he gives a lot of tzedakah. But if you're afraid and you're going to feel bad after he says no, don't call him.
Yeah, but isn't that the issue everyone deals with? You say don't be rejected.
I think you have to understand where the person's coming from. And Hashem benched him with the money. And it was Hashem didn't bench you with the money. He benched him with the money for him to decide. It's your obligation, your responsibility to make the case and present it well. But it's his choice to decide if you should give to him. I was sharing before with Jonathan. It was a fellow I worked on this year to get money, and I was hoping the person would give me $250,000, $300,000. I worked a long time. I did every single thing in the book that you would do. I saw the guy every single day. I made a good case. I made a meeting. I made a request in a good time. And he gave all indication that he was going to give it. And then he came over to me a week before Pesach. He put his hand on and said, Naftali, I'm going to send $10,000. I was so deflated. And he looked at me and he said, you're upset? And I said, yes, I am. But I understand that you have a lot of requests on your side. And it's hard for you to make the decision. And I respect that. He said, I appreciate that.
Here's $100,000.
No,
Okay.
no, but he said this is a starting point. He's going to give me he's going to Bez Hashem. But I like I said earlier, rejections are hard, but understand where the rejection is coming from, and it definitely makes it much easier.
Again, I think the reason why people take it personal often is it depends on the position of the person. If you're founding the organization, it's different. A guy is a fundraiser as a parnasa, he's very anxious about that. He really wants to make the money because that's how he makes his living, right? So it is harder. A salesman who's selling mortgages or whatever, he feels bad when he doesn't get. So it is not easy.
I had a crazy story this Rosh Hashanah. Crazy story. There was a fellow that gave me $500,000, and yearly. And this year, I tried to reach him for 2-3 weeks. No answer, no response, no nothing. And I tried many different ways to reach him, and I couldn't get him. And then one day, I realized I'm putting my faith in him and not putting my faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you decide if I should have this program. It's up to you to have the ability. And I think, really, whether the guy gives you or not is the mistake. The mistake is you have to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I need Hatzlacha. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you want the person to give me, put it in his heart to give me. And if you want the money to come from somewhere else, then the money should come. That morning, when I realized that I made the decision, the guy called me up at 2 o'clock. And I said to him, when he answered, I said, until today, I was relying on you. This morning, I relied on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he gave it. But
part of the advice people are walking away with here is believe in Hashem, which is not bad advice. Right?
Yeah, I think that's the yesod that we have to realize. It's amazing what he did. He created a movement people give, but it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts the inspiration.
Of course. Like I told Jonathan, I think every person at one point in their life thought about, hey, why can I do this? But he acted on it and did it. So one of the things people want to know is about gifting donors. So you said that you gave this donor who you didn't even know, never met him, this beautiful painting. But Jonathan, what do you talk about gifting donors? You want to give a donor a gift, not talking about the daily giving, but other people to make them feel good and loved. And what advice would you give to taking care of donors? Shloich manis and pur, what do you do?
So I personally, and it's hard because when I give donations to organizations, I personally don't really like to get. I don't like to get presents back. I feel like, wait,
You're the guy.
huh?
You're that guy.
I'm the guy who doesn't like, right, like if I gave you money, why are you giving some of that money back to me in a gift? So it's hard because then, but everyone in organizations, in the organization world, it's like known, this is just how you do it. And, I'm looking forward to reading that book, Giftology.
Yeah, they said I'll tell you, there's a book called Giftology. It was written by a non-Jew called John Rulin. It's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. I actually interviewed him once. He explains the whole strategy of gift-giving people to build relationships, both in donors and whatever. He happened to have died. He was 42. He died this year. But the book is a game changer. I've told many Moises about it, and it really helped them. For example, he does not advocate giving food, ever. He even said, don't give him a shlo, come on, some Purim, right? He knew. Because then it disappears. Give something you can do the whole year. But anyways, obviously you have some thoughts about it.
I find that for me, when I give gifts, I just want it to be something really different and personal. So in my office, in my chiropractic office, I have a really beautiful picture of the Kotel. Like, it's really stunning. So I made this huge canvas. I love looking at it. So I bought a bunch, I gave it to different donors. I sent it to their house. And
how did they respond to it?
They loved it.
Wow.
They loved it.
Well, you, Rabbi Miller?
I think like Jonathan, I like to come up with random ideas and catch people off guard and show them that we care about them. If a person's going out to eat with his wife, I'll call the restaurant and send over a bottle of wine, or try to do things that really show that you care. Not so expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive.
Give some examples.
But give them. Just the other night, I went out to eat with a couple of friends of mine, and I met one of the donors to Aguda. There's a substantial donor, and he said hello to me. And then his wife came over, and his wife brought over his two kids and said, "This is Rabbi Miller, because Rabbi Miller helps us with getting our kids into camp when we have a parking ticket or anything."
Aguda, right?
But I think at the end, we're there for them. They know emotionally we're there, and I think that's really, we developed a friendship that it's much more than just getting a check out of the person.
Of course, but you want to give some examples, some out of the box stuff that you've done.
I have to think.
No pressure.
Well, I've done hoops. Jumped through hoops to a donor of mine had made a bar mitzvah. I got a set of chumashim, and I got different gedolim to sign it. And 4 signatures, he was overwhelmed. So the set cost me $150. And I met the bar mitzvah boy. I think I gave it to him 5 years ago. He still talks about it.
Wow, that's interesting. Similarly, in America's Daf Yomi, so there's a Yid named Yossi Klein. He's a volunteer. He owns a plumbing company, and he dedicates all his dime to the Daf. What do you get a guy like that? He doesn't like any gifts. So but he once said he likes Tehillim. So we found him a Tehillim from the 1700s, had it leather bound, they gave it to him. He loves it, right? It's like you said, something different and personal. Let's segment to small donors, right? We have a big organization. You're trying to get the big donors and the small donors. One of the hardest things to cultivate is that how do you get so many people to give so little and get involved, right? You said they're all people, you care about everyone, but what would be your advice to try to get the big picture out there? I know it's a very big, broad spectrum question, but Dr. Donath, we'll go to you. What do you say? How do you get daily giving known to the world?
A lot of siyata d'shmaya.
This is not shir. This is shir right now.
Yeah, a lot of siyata d'shmaya. Right, like you said, there's lots of other people tried, and I don't think I'm special. I just think that it was the right time, right place, and Hashem wanted to succeed now. I think that getting people like Rabbi Crow and Rabbi Zachariah Wallerstein, Zatzal, getting people like that caliber to get behind it and speak publicly about it was very instrumental at the beginning. The timing also, after our first year, COVID hit. Also, people were like, "Oh, I go to shul every day. Why do I have to give $1 a day?" And then all of a sudden, there's no shul.
Wow.
And we grew from 1,000 to 4,500 the first year of COVID. So I think COVID helped us in some ways. So I think that I heard a great story many years ago about a chiropractor, and it really applies the same to this. And that is this chiropractor built this very successful multi-million dollar practice. Then he would sell it, and they would move to another city, start another organization from scratch, and then a couple of years later sell it again, and just over and over. And someone caught up to them and said, what is your secret to getting so many thousands of new patients? And he said, I don't have one secret to get 1,000 new patients, but I have 1,000 secrets to get one new patient. And I think it's the same with daily giving and other things. Like you just can't put all your eggs in one basket. I can't tell you one thing that worked. I think that it's really, you try, you sprinkle here, you try this, you try that. And I'm going to be really honest. We're 6.5 years in, and we're at 21,000 people, and I'm like, why are we at only 21,000, not 150,000? But I know everyone is going to go sign up at dailygiving.org afterwards, so that'll be good. But I know that.
I mean, you know how many nonprofits would like jump through hoops, as he said, to have 21,000 monthly donors?
Yeah.
It's crazy because you don't. I don't know if you even understand what you built, right? I doubt there's any organization in the world that has 21,000 monthly donors. Maybe by under the dollar day, but it's very, very, very rare.
And so it is. It's difficult, and like Naftali said before, if you truly believe in your heart, like I literally, when I speak to people, I'm like, it's not for me. Like this is like the opportunity of a lifetime. Like Rav Gav Friedman from Aish has he gave this great little talk, and he said, you go up to Shemayim, and there's thousands and thousands of angels, and this one's for, and you're like, wait, what are all these people? And he says, it's got to be a mistake. This can't be for me. And he says, no, remember years ago you signed up for that organization, Daily Giving, and you gave $1 every day. He's like, well, this malach is for the person you shelter, and this was for the person you gave food, and this one's the person you bigger colon. And that's what it is. Like for $1 a day, it's like set it and forget it. You're guaranteed a mitzvah every single day for $1. It's like the biggest no-brainer. So when I go out and I talk to people, and even my staff, and we go talk to people, and we're giving them an opportunity. I think that it's Naftali. If you're a fundraiser, right, you literally have to walk into that room feeling like you are giving them the opportunity of a lifetime. And are they sometimes going to say no? There's because they have lots of other opportunities. I know that I'm not there, and it is hard not to take it personally, or not. I don't take it personally. It's not hard to take it personally, but it's hard. Is it hard not to get disappointed? Yes, it's hard not to get disappointed. It's not hard to not take it personally.
Yeah. So one of the things we're talking about, people who fundraise for a parnasa, right? They're trying to make a living at the end of the day. And yes, you said you have to believe it, and if you don't believe it, it's a problem. But one of the things we want to talk about is you built big organizations, and you're both married, have children. Baruch Hashem. Yeah. So how do you balance that, right? It's 7, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock, your donor calls you, and your kids are waiting for you all day, and you're at bedtime with them, right? Or you're out late because you have another event or another meeting, and then the kids are, Tati, when are you coming home? And it hurts you, or your wife already gave up on you. But at least your kids will still want to see you, right? So how do you balance that struggle in life? In a way, I said it's the furthest from a 9-to-5 job. How do you? Let's start with you, Rabbi Miller. How do you balance that difficulty that people face?
I see Chatzko Bennett over here. We had the privilege together to work on a dinner for David Trenk. And Ray Trenk started his yeshiva in Lakewood. We made a very successful dinner for him. We worked for weeks, and it was wildly successful. The next night, we came to Chatzko's house, and Ray Trenk came, and we thought we were going to celebrate all together. And Ray Trenk walks in, and he says, young man, go home to your wives. And I think that lesson of our trink ringing in our ear. But I think the way is your family has to be part of it. And 2 years ago.
What he said was, thank you, boys, go home to your wives. And stood up and walked out of the room. Drove to Brooklyn from Lakewood, New Jersey, 2 hours to say thank you to 6 of his Talmidim. Go home to your wives, turned around and went back to Lakewood.
Wow.
That was our revenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so continuing point, you say involve them. That's a great point.
Is that 2 years ago, Chalamoid, we took out Kingsburg for 3 days for Rabbeim. And my kids and my wife and my daughter-in-laws ran the whole day the popcorn machine. 10 hours straight running the popcorn for thousands of people. And they were so excited to do it for the Rabbeim and the families because they're part of it. They're part of the organization. And I think really the families, my wife comes to go to the convention, it has to come part and parcel by Shabbos table. We're discussing it. We're discussing this thing, this problem, and that's really the only way to success.
I wanted to elaborate what you're saying. Men have sometimes an issue where we feel like we don't talk about our problems, for sure not, right? We leave it all at business, and you come home, I don't have to let you know. But I think when elaborate, you're saying exactly the opposite. Come home, tell your kids what you've been dealing with, tell your kids your struggles, tell your kids every little, I mean, obviously with a limit, but your family should hear what you're going through. Yeah. I dealt with this donor. I thought you said a story about a donor that you had at your restaurant, and they pulled you over, and then they recognized you. So if you tell your children what you're dealing with, what you're kind of saying is it makes it easier when you're not there, essentially. When you're out late and you're struggling, they understand because they understand what Tati's doing, right? That donut, you said something earlier about your kids and the balance and the phone.
So first of all, I think I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes.
It's hard. It's really
very
hard.
I'm still a full-time chiropractor. I see patients for now. I drop
How
down
do
to
you
4 days
balance
a week.
that? How do you balance that?
So I find someone in the last year said this, and I really love it. It says, you're just trying to find balance in the imbalance. Right? There is no balance. There is
Stop trying to look for fixes. It's messed up.
There's not going to be balance.
But Jonathan is not telling us the Zoom call we had. His niece jumped onto the call, and
He's saying that's what he's saying. If you're not looking to have things perfect, you'll deal with the imperfects.
Yeah. So it's really
like that.
it's finding the balance in the imbalance. And I've seen my youngest is 15, and about 2 years ago it came out. I didn't think she even really was aware that I wasn't getting home till 10, 11 o'clock most nights. 12, like she'd be asleep by 8. I see patients. I didn't even before daily give. I didn't get home till 8 o'clock, right? So 8:39, and now it's like my day starts when I'm done with my patients. So there's no balance. There's zero balance. But it also, I made a lot of mistakes. I realize now, and I'm trying to make up for them, trying to heal some of the things where my daughter told me. She's like, yeah, I feel like you're never home. And that is like, and so I think Naftali's right about trying to involve as much as I can. Trust me, in fact, now I try to, when a donor, someone's at the table, just Shabbos guests, I won't even talk about daily giving. I feel like I don't want to traumatize them anymore. But at the end of the day, and I think this goes to finding the balance, and this is something that I've come into in the last year of growth, is self-compassion. This is very important. If I could leave you all with one tip for today is to have try and find some self-compassion.
What does that mean?
That we're wired, or people like us are wired to achieve, and achieve, right? And go. And it's very hard. And so on the one hand, that gives you a drive, a very, very hard, I am extremely driven, right? So that drive translated to now, with lots of help and lots of siyata d'shmaya, 21,000 people giving $1 a day. There's a certain drive that took to get there. Not when someone's in a room and saying that's a bad idea, this is why it's not going to work. You're like, okay, thank you, and then you just move on. But at the end of the day, with that drive comes, you're very, very hard on yourself.
Right.
Very hard on yourself.
You said yourself, you're upset you only have 21,000 people.
So exactly. So it's very, and this is everyone. It doesn't matter if you're running an organization or not. We have the little birdie in our head that's talking all day to us, right? It's always saying stuff, and you know what? It's often not saying nice things to us. It's often telling us we're not doing well enough, we're not doing enough, you should be doing this, you should do that, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, it's really, really important to have self-compassion, to understand that you are worthy just because you have a piece of Hashem in you, and you are worthy of just being.
Is that celebrating your wins, or a different idea, or it's the same?
No, but people think that if they have self-compassion, then they're not going to work as hard, that they're not going to be as driven, and they're not going to be as successful. But what I'm learning is it really doesn't work like that. It actually, when you stop and you're able to start having a little bit more compassion, you realize, I need to be there for my wife. I need to be there for my children. I need to, okay, yes, I have another opportunity tonight to be at this dinner with this donor that could give $100,000 to daily giving or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, okay, there'll be someone else tomorrow. If Hashem wants that person to give, they'll give it. It'll find another way. And to having self-compassion. There's a book called Radical Compassion that I'd recommend everyone read.
The opposite of radical candor.
Huh?
The opposite of the book called Radical Candor everyone's into. So the radical compassion.
Radical compassion, it just is, I promise you there's no downside to having more compassion. It's something I think all humans are lacking in, is having self-compassion. We are extremely, I think as Jews, we have so many good role models that we're trying to prove ourselves. We're trying to do good for Hashem. That sometimes can lead us to this never-ending feeling like we're not doing enough.
Right, and there's also the idea of, like you said, you ask the average person, yourself, right? If I told you, tell me about daily giving. So you don't say, oh, wow, I look at this amazing thing. No, I only have. The nature of a person is that we don't celebrate our successes. We talk about the negativity, what should we do better and better and better. What you're saying, I think, is also, besides for saying, hey, I'm human, no, what did I do good today? I helped the person, I helped the mice, I helped that, right? I think it's very difficult. It's very amazing. We're going to do something I like calling rapid fire questions, okay? This is quick 1-minute questions. It's a quick answer. We'll try to give a little bit into the life of a person like yourself. You ready? Okay. How many coffees do you drink a day? This is fun. This is a fun
lot.
part. A lot. How many?
4 or 5 by 8 o'clock.
Whoa. In the morning?
8 o'clock in the morning.
How do you drink it? Black with like turbo? What do you?
No sugar, just milk.
Wow. Yourself?
0.
0.
But I do have but I do have to drink sometimes some diet soda, which is not healthy, just for the caffeine.
It's a character.
I'm not a
Everything holistic. Have you ever pulled the all-nighter in your office?
Plenty.
Like all night till the morning?
Yeah.
Wow. Yourself?
Yes.
All night on the moises. I once asked the guy, did you ever sleep? Do you ever sleep in your office? He goes, I was up all night. I didn't sleep. What's the best gift any employee ever gave to you?
Helping me with a donor. Like they saw someone that needed something, and they went out of their responsibility to take care of somebody.
What's the best gift you've ever given an employee? I'm going to ask you both in a second.
I think notes are the most important.
Notes?
Yeah, like telling them that why they're doing something is,
Compliment them with a note. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't ask. What's the best gift you've ever given or gotten?
Best. I gave one of these really special Kotel pictures to an employee, and they really liked it.
Oh, did you ever get a nice gift from your employer? No pressure. I'm saying. I'm trying to think what I got. Yeah, I think so.
Our COO, Rabbi Aryeh Friedner, who just donated his kidney to Renewal a week and a half ago, he just also came out with a book called Common Ground, and he sent me a copy of his book, and he wrote a beautiful inscription, and it meant a lot to me.
I once heard about giving to employees. One of my employees is here, so I've said the story in the past. He said, "What can you give them that they need in their life?" So I have a great guy who works with me, and he was 25 years old, didn't have his license. I said, why don't you have your license? He says, oh, you have a permit? You have a permit. Okay. Next day by lunch, I said, there's a driving instructor downstairs. And he got his license. So I just wanted someone to run errands for me. But Lamai said, no, I'm kidding. But Baruch Hashem, he has his license, and he's very happy. What can you do to help him? Another worker, she has 2 daughters in Shidduchim. What can you do? So I found 2 shadchanim. I paid them money. I said, please try to help them with the shidduch. Whatever you can do. Final wording advice. You're sitting here with everyone in this room, one-on-one. Imagine you're sitting one-on-one with everyone in the room, and they're going through a tough day. What chizuk would you give them to keep on going? We'll start with you, Rabbi Miller.
I think someone texted me today if you should come to this event, and he says, "Is if I'm not a leader?" I said, "Of course you are a leader. You're a leader." I think people have to believe in themselves. Believe tomorrow will be a better day, and I believe that Jonathan was saying one part. I believe the other part that you have to celebrate his success. Today you were successful. You did X, Y, and Z. It's very, very hard, and it could be hard. And Baruch Hashem, when you're successful, I remember a few weeks ago I called my wife and I said, we're going out to eat. She said, why? I said, Baruch Hashem, today we had a great day. I think celebrating those successes. Last year, I got Bell's palsy, and it came from stress. And Baruch Hashem, I learned that you have to change. You have to change and celebrate the successes. Yes, we have stress and we live with it. But we have to start realizing more and more HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control of the world, and you can't live with that stress, and it'll come a different way, and that's the
Beautiful. What would you say?
I'm going to piggyback on what Naftali just said. I think that I used to bother me because, like, why am I so stressed? I have such strong emunah. If I have such strong emunah, then why am I so stressed? And emunah, like giving, is a muscle. And you have to work on that muscle. And so I realized that even though intellectually I had very strong emunah, but I realized that in my body, was not feeling emunah. My body was feeling stress. So I've worked the last couple of years on really learning emunah, safers, there's tons of different daily podcasts and daily things on emunah. And the more you learn emunah, the more it seeps into your body. And then all of a sudden you realize, like, I should be as stressed as I've ever been in my life, and I'm the calmest I've ever been.
So the advice is, learn emunah. It does work. I think that we came to this event. I always say, you come to a panel, you never know what you're going to expect. And you guys built incredibly large, successful organizations. And I think the key that people can take away from this panel is, A, you have to be passionate, for sure. Believe in what you're doing. And when you believe there's a higher power, that gives you both the chizuk to keep on going, get big donors, small donors, and build something great. With that, thank you so much. Huge round of applause. We're starting the next panel, I think, in like 5 minutes. Totally Hasidic panel, the next one. So it's going to be a very different vibe, but we enjoy. We're going to talk about crowdfunding. Thank you so much. Oof.